Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ambassador's Lounge. Tonight, Iran stands at a dangerous crossroads. Events are unfolding with profound implications for its people, the region, and the world. The regime is not merely facing protests, it is confronting a moment of reckoning. What we are witnessing is not an isolated eruption of anger over prices or jobs. This is the cry of a society pushed to the edge by a collapsing economy, a free falling currency, and a political system that has exhausted its credibility with its own people. What we are witnessing, the demonstrations have spread quickly past Tehran into smaller cities and towns. The government response has been harsh and heavy handed. Reports indicate hundreds of deaths, thousands of arrests. In an effort to control the narrative and limit coordination among the protesters, the Iranian government has imposed an internet blackout. From outside, the international spotlight has sharpened. The US has signaled that it is considering strong options, including economic pressure and possible military intervention, and has announced 25% tariffs on nations trading with Iran. So, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we ask, is Iran on the brink of transformative change? Or will the entrenched establishment withstand the pressures, both internal and external? I will ask my panelists the ramifications of this turmoil for energy markets, regional stability, and global diplomacy. I have with me today Ambassador Asif Durrani, who has served in Iran, and Ambassador Riaz Bukhari, who may have not served in Iran, but he is still a specialist on regional affairs. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the Ambassador's Lounge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Asif, let me come with you, mate. Now, are we witnessing the beginning of a genuine revolution in Iran? Or is it another cyclic challenge the regime will weather?
Imran, thank you very much. And I think our viewers would also like this format because sometimes we may not be in the same city or may not be available for
yes, of course.
our meeting place. So I think I congratulate you for this initiative. This is, I think, much a better initiative. And secondly, I think it will also extend our outreach.
It will definitely, mate, and it's a joint initiative, joint effort.
Yeah, wonderful. So coming back to your question, I think it's a difficult question to answer for me, having served twice in Iran, once as first secretary and then after 20 years as ambassador. But one thing is clear, that Iran has been under the microscope ever since that revolution broke out in that country 47 years ago. And now, what you see is it was the currency crisis.
Devaluation, yeah.
Iranian real plunged and overnight almost 35% got down. And the result was that there were spontaneous protests. This time, one unique aspect was that first time the traders who were normally with the clergy, they came out on the streets, they shut down their businesses and they were protesting. That caused the government in Iran, especially President Pezeshkian, I'm sorry, saying that their demand and their grievances are genuine. However, it took an ugly turn. It took a violent turn in many cities. And then you have also seen some media blackout also. There was a blackout of the internet and others. But now it is restored. what I'm trying to say is that it is, when you talk about the internal situation, it is just not purely internal. It is also the external factor is very much strong. And that is the
Exactly, mate.
American interference. And Israelis are now also, trying anxiously, impatiently to harm Iran in one way or the other. And
Okay.
what you saw in June this year, the 12-day war, actually it was at the instigation of Israel. And America was roped in at the last moment. And it destroyed 3 of Iran's nuclear sites, which was a violation of the IAEA safeguards and its rules. But despite that, now you have seen that what happened in Venezuela. My worry is that international order is at a great risk of being dismantled.
It is already being dismantled.
What happened in Venezuela, this sitting president was arrested, the American troops there, and brought him as a criminal to New York. If that happens to a president, forget it. That don't forget that what is going to happen elsewhere in the world. And Iran, soon after that, Iran is under pressure. So it is President Trump who is, I think, playing with fire.
Okay.
And I'm worried. Yes.
Okay. Riaz, let me come to you, mate. And now we saw 2009, we saw turmoil, demonstrations in Iran. That was because of election dispute. Then in 2019, there were again demonstrations because of fuel charges. Then 2022 on women's rights. Now, what I would want to know is that how is this protest? How is it different in terms of scale, social composition, and regime vulnerability?
Yeah, thank you. The current protest or demonstrations, which we saw in the media, we saw some reports, it was on a large scale. And it all started from Bazaar, which is regarded as the traditional sport base of the revolution.
Yes, that's what Asif also said.
Yeah. So now the protests are being carried out in major cities of the Iranian state, and it's all because of the economic difficulties which traders and the people all are facing, the hardships. And some of the hardships are because of the sanctions which have been imposed on Iran from the United States. So this is on one side. And the other side, you've seen, repressive, apparatus which have been imposed upon the people. People are bound to react. They don't see the fruits of the revolution, which were promised initially, that after the fall of Shah, everything will be in the hands of the common man, and the fruits of the export of oil will be shared with the common man. No doubt, during the last 45 years, we see some progress in the education sector, in the health sector, but we also witnessed, a number of repressive action taken by the revolutionary government. So I think people's, the patience is under test these days.
Okay, Riaz, what I want to know is how are these protests, the present protests, how are they different from the previous ones? How vulnerable is the Iranian regime now at the moment because of these protests? What makes these protests different?
Well, as I said, that the sanctions are now biting the common man.
They were earlier also.
No, but this time, if you just see the fall of the local currency vis-a-vis dollars, It has
Yes.
really, the people are facing difficulties. The common things are being taken out of the reach of the common man. And this protest started from bazaar, not from the
Okay.
middle
So can we
house.
say, Riaz, can we say that these protests, the present ones, they are more comprehensive, they are more inclusive? Earlier, there was the, as you said, the traders, the businessmen, they were not part of the protests. For instance,
Yeah,
the 22 protests or 2019 protests. But this time, the Iranians as a whole are coming out against the dispensation.
I will agree to some extent with your interpretation, but the only difference this time is that there are certain foreign elements
We
which,
will come to the foreign elements later.
but
We will come to
no,
the
yeah, but that is why this has become more violent by from the government side as well as from those elements which are using sophisticated arms to kill the security people in Tehran.
Okay,
So
okay.
that is the
Asif,
main difference this time.
okay, okay. Asif, coming to you. Now, mate, more than 650 people have been killed, including security personnel, and 10,000 plus arrested. And there is a internet blackout. So what we see is a country in a mess. Has the regime, the present regime, the government, shifted from crisis management to survival mode?
Imran, I think to be devil's advocate, the current Iranian regime has already been under pressure, international pressure from the Americans, especially
Mhm.
since 1979 onwards. I'll slightly differ from Ambassador Riaz Bukhari. Reason is that Iran, WHO has awarded the number one uh, country in the world as far as primary health is concerned. Iran is number one.
Yes, their health system
Secondly,
is yes, yes,
secondly,
you're right.
on literacy, they have achieved phenomenal success with 98% literacy. This is quite unique, and this has happened after the revolution. And then, and despite the fact that under pressure, under sanctions. The question is, they have not squandered the resources of Iran, but the issue was sanctions, stringent sanctions. So much so that in 2015, when nuclear deal, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was signed, there was a beeline of the Western companies to Iran. And in a couple of years, the prices in Tehran's real estate shot up, and then you could not find a house on rent. This
Hmm.
was because everyone was waiting in the wings to invest in Iran. But here comes Trump, and he resigns from the agreement. He, in fact, scraps the agreement, and then he imposes stringent sanctions against Iran. And the result was that in 2018, when India was buying $10 billion worth of oil, they had to stop it. Elsewhere, they also had to, do the same practice, except for China. China did not stop, and China is still the largest trading partner. Almost 90% of Iran's trade is with China, including its oil, and it is sustaining Iran. So here, I think we have to be fair as far as Iran is concerned. You may have differences as
Right,
far
but
as
what about the
internal
regime, Asif? What about the regime? How strong,
regime. The
how
question,
safe is the
eh,
regime?
let me come to that. Regime has resisted. There's a Cuba is resisting United States from the day one. It is not something new. They also faced the Cuban Missile Crisis when the Soviets were there, and Americans tried their best as far as Latin Americans concerned to trounce the regime in Cuba. They could not succeed. Same is happening with Iran. Iran is, you can say, in my, I'm not a religious person, but Iran is one country as far as region is concerned, which withstood the American pressure. Let's not forget. And now it faced the Israeli onslaught, it faced the American onslaught, but at the same time, it in fact broke the myth of the Israelis' invincible defense, their so-called Iron Dome, that Iran penetrated into that system
Yes,
because
yeah.
Israel had.
You've got a point, mate. You've got a point there. But
Sorry.
what we are seeing is that there is this the present dispensation in Tehran. It is, as you yourself also said, it is under tremendous pressure. And
It
one
is there.
indication of that pressure is that they have gone to the Americans. They have asked them, "Let's talk, let's negotiate." So it is quite obvious that they are under pressure, and the what we are hearing from whatever news that are coming from Tehran, that uh, they are uh, they are adopting heavy-handed approach towards the demonstrators. Riaz, let me come to you. There is no formal or unified opposition group inside Iran or even outside. Now, history has shown, in fact, the recent history has shown that a movement which is leaderless is actually rudderless. It has no, it cannot go straight. So, what is the future of the current movement, which has no central leadership?
Yeah, yes, I agree with you. The currently, protest movement, we don't see any leader in Tehran. But outside, the former crown prince, the son of the Shah, he is claiming, to be the leader, and we see him, on international media, articulating his position vis-a-vis the current government in Tehran. But in addition to the former Shah's family, we don't see any serious alternate leadership within Iran. That is a big dilemma. But we should also not ignore that recently Iran had faced threat from outside in the form of the state of Israel's attack, which were carried out against Iran. And Iran obviously spent huge funds to sustain those attacks, and consequently, now Iran is facing huge inflation in the country. That is a big challenge. Plus, there are international sanctions, and there are some
Yes, this is we have stressed this thing again and again. But again, my question is, how strong or what is the future of this movement, which is actually leaderless? How I mean, it is a scenario, it is a situation where anyone or everyone is making decisions. And what we saw in Egypt, what we saw in Libya, what we saw in Iraq, what we saw in Algeria, a movement which cannot have a central figure to control or to bring out a policy or to negotiate, is doomed to failure.
You can compare it with what we had, spring movements in the Middle East in the recent past. There
Yes, that
were
was also leaderless.
But there were no credible leaders leading those, the movements, and we saw the result as well. Similarly, what we have witnessed during the last 2 days, huge demonstrations by the supporters of the government in various cities of Iran. So these are the counter moves by the current setup in Iran, and I'm perhaps my view is that the government will be able to control these movements.
Asif, your take here, mate?
I agree with Riaz. I think the Iranian government would be able to control it. The reason is that America and Israel, they have actually blatantly interfered in the country, and and this game is quite obvious. And secondly, I think Iranians as a whole have been disappointed with the role of former King's son, Ahmed Reza, that he could not play. He's not a political animal. He left the country at the age of 19, and for the past 47
Mhm.
years,
He has
he
not
is
come
living
back.
abroad and he has not played any role. Secondly, there is no, you can say, shadow government sitting in exile. So, what kind of a role will they play? So, as I said
Absolutely.
earlier, that Iranian people, they are, I think, quite mature people, given their 98% literacy rate, as well as the oldest civilization as far as our region
Mhm.
is concerned.
So,
They
Asif,
know
mm,
there's no alternate, Imran, if there's
yeah,
no alternate. So they don't
exactly.
want to plunge the country to a further chaos
Absolutely
from fry
correct.
pan to fire. It
Mm.
would be a from fry pan to fire situation for them.
Okay, Asif, what I wanted to know is that, of course, there is a segment of the Iranian society, both in Iran and abroad, who want a return to monarchy. They are the monarchists, and Mr. Raza Pahlavi, he has the support of Israel, for instance. But he, as you said, he has not been in Iran. He is no longer the son of the soil, and I don't think he has that capacity, the potential to unite the society, which is deeply divided at the moment. But do you think, if ever this transition, they try to make this transition from the current setup to the monarchy, do you think it will be more divisive for the country, particularly because if you see the last elections, the conservatives, they took more than 13 million votes. Mr. Saeed Jalili took more than 13 million votes, and he was the second. So, do you find any place, any role for the monarchists in Iran's future?
Imran, as far as Shah's son is concerned, as I said it and you have also said it, that he has been away from the country and he could not lead the opposition. Therefore, you can say that he is a showboy as far as opposition is concerned. He could not play a role. Even now, he's not playing a role. And more than that, he has in his a number of interviews, he has said that he will not come back as a monarch. He would be a Democrat and then he would hand
Mhm.
over power to the elected people. If that's the case, but the issue is that the opposition in Iran is not organized. One. Secondly, the present dispensation in Iran is very well organized. They have been alternating power between moderates and hardliners, Tundros and Kundros. So that has been the case. You will see that there's an interesting, you can say, graph as far as alternating the power is concerned. You have one president who is moderate, and then he's
Yes.
alternated
Mhm.
by a hardliner, and then alternated by a moderate. This has been the case throughout Iran's this revolutionary history during the past 47 years. So here, but main thing is here now it is just not the currency issue. Here the main issue is that Iran is under threat from the United States and Israel.
Okay. Right. Yes.
And
Mhm.
during the past 47 years, I think Iranian clergy has succeeded in educating the people about the American machinations as well as Israeli conspiracies. This credit you have to go give to them. Whether they have succeeded or not, as far as transforming the society is concerned, they may not have
Okay.
that
Okay.
success. But
You've got
I
a
think there's a real, you can say, awareness in Iran, and Iranian people cannot be hoodwinked. Hoodwinked. This is my take.
Okay, right. So, what basically Asif was saying, that despite the efforts of the international community try to bring in monarchy or try to bring in Reza Pahlavi, he will not be able to provide the country the leadership which the country needs, and he would not be a viable option to the present dispensation. Now, Riaz, Iran's economy is crumbling, and the current administration apparently has no plan or well thought out plan to improve the situation, to ameliorate the situation. The currency, as you guys have said, that it has devalued. Now it is 1.4 million reals to a dollar. Inflation is 40%. So tell me, Riaz, is Iran approaching a point where economic collapse itself becomes a political actor?
Imran, in the history, all revolutions have gone through difficult times, and they succeed only if they are strong on delivering to the people to satisfy their immediate needs. Here, what we have seen, Iran is under sanctions, not for the last 1 year, but last so many years, and they have survived. As I mentioned earlier, they made certain progresses in different sectors as well. But facing the hegemonic power of the world at the global level, it's really difficult. So Iran has to see where it can make some adjustment while adhering to the revolutionary spirit. They have to improve their relationship with their immediate neighbors, particularly in the Gulf. Only then they will be able to address some of the concerns of the common man. Otherwise, it will remain under stress. It will continue to face economic difficulties. But the leadership test is now for them to deliver on the promises they made to the common man.
So apparently, Riaz, uh, obviously there is no well thought out plan, economic plan of the leaders for the country, primarily because of the heavy sanctions. And those sanctions, as you guys said, that have been there for decades, and now they are beginning to bite harder and harder. So
Yeah.
Iran has to find a way to get back to the main system. Anyways, Asif, Mr. Trump has announced yesterday additional 25% tariffs on countries which trade with Iran. He has openly threatened Iranian leadership. These aspects they have emboldened. Do you think they have emboldened the movement? And is he closing the space for dialogue and getting ready for what he calls as very strong options?
Imran, as far as fresh sanctions are concerned, with 25% additional tariffs doing business with Iran, I don't think it will succeed because China is not going to buy that. China has
Okay.
already defied American sanctions, and China is the largest trading partner with 90% of Iran's trade with China. Secondly, we are doing business with Iran in a sense that it is not much, but at the same time, you may have seen that if it is not official trade, it is the unofficial trade because the people are doing business with each other. Our border markets are doing that business, normally, and even Iranian butter and lassi is also available in Quetta, and even its jam are available in Lahore.
The food products.
In Islamabad, yes,
Yeah.
good product. Food items as well as oil. Oil is smuggled into Pakistan. Reason is that it is the source of income for the common man. It is not benefiting the influentials, but it is also bread and butter for the common man. One thing. Secondly, when you talk about in the region, Iranian have been doing business with the Gulf states. Can they deny that trade to Iran? I think they will be doing that at their own peril. For instance, with UAE, they have a trade to the tune of $30 billion. and the balance of trade is in UAE's favor. So what they are going to do that? And UAE has recognized Israel, and they have a relationship with Israel. So you think that their relationship with Israel means that they have to incur losses because of they can't do trade with Iran? Same is true with the other countries. But major, I think, partner for Iran is Russia and China. And both have stood by Iran, and I think they are likely to stand by Iran, even
Okay.
if there's a worse
Okay.
situation.
So, but Riaz, this is one aspect which Asif has covered. But tell me, is Mr. Trump's threatening remarks, are these threatening remarks closing the space for dialogue? I mean, there is one point, there's one place they say that the Americans say that we want dialogue. And when the Iranians come and say, yes, we are also open to dialogue, what we see is that there are threats emanating from particularly Mr. Trump.
Yeah, you're right. Trump has threatened Iran a number of times in the recent history. And, in response to threats from Trump, Iranian government has made a move that through negotiation, perhaps they there could be some uh, role for resolving this issue of conflict
Which issue?
between.
Which issue? Which issue are you talking about?
You know, the U.S. concerns about nuclear problems, and then
Okay.
the axis of resistance in the region. No doubt, through the last 2 years, some of them have already been neutralized. Hezbollah is no more that active. Hamas is almost, finished. Yemen, we see there are, issues and concerns by the Gulf states. So Iran has to use his diplomacy in a very proactive manner to address concerns of the neighboring countries. If it really wants to get out of the web of these sanctions, otherwise one sanction will invite two more sanctions, then fresh sanctions. How long China will continue to violate, international sanctions to buy oil from Iran? It would be difficult.
Yeah, right. Okay. For you, the question for both of you gentlemen. Now, both Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Trump have talked about regime change. We have seen regime changes, random regime changes in Libya. We have seen regime change in Iraq. We have seen regime change uh, Libya, Syria. Now they are again talking about regime change in Iran. Are they unaware of the consequences of these regime changes, or they deliberately want to throw the country into total chaos and unrest? Asif?
Uh, Imran, we cannot compare those regime changes which you have named, whether it's Syria, it's Libya, or elsewhere, because in Iran it was a revolution. They have established a system whereby, of course, it's the rule of the clergy, but at the same time, the present supreme leader, he was after the death of Imam Khomeini, he replaced him, and there is a system through Majlis Khabar Khan which can replace after his demise. So there is a very well established system in Iran. So I don't think that the American scheme of things or Israelis, if they want to have a regime change, they can, disturb the apple cart. It's not going to happen like that. And this is
Okay.
why that during the Arab Spring, it did not succeed in Iran. It could, to some extent succeed elsewhere, whether it was Egypt, Tunisia, Libya, but it could not succeed in Iran because they have established a system which rules the country. Of course, it's the rule of the clergy, but at the same time, this system has also delivered. Hadn't it delivered, Iranians are quite smart people. They would not have tolerated this system anymore. And even
Well,
now, they can trounce the
mhm.
system. but they are tolerating the system because they think that there is no viable alternate. So this is my take. Yes.
Uh, Asif has a point. He said that Iran has a system, or it had a system, it has a system. But we did see that Iraq had a system, a very strong president. We see in Libya a very strong head of the state. They had a system totally under control. In Syria, there was a president who was powerful, strong, and there was a system. But when these powers they want to bring about regime change, they normally do it through the people by creating unrest, by creating turmoil. So, Riaz, what is your Asif? I'll come to you. What is your take on this, Riaz?
We have to differentiate between the, political system which is being followed in Iran and the system which was in place in Iraq, Libya, or any other Arab country. Those were, basically dictatorship of a party or a leader. Here in Tehran, there is, they have evolved a system of checks and balances. Madrasas, then madrasa, the higher majlis, then the rahbar, the president. There are different offices which are working at checks and balances on each other's part. And they are regularly, the parliamentarian representatives, they are elected regularly with different intervals. So there is no comparison, of any sort between Iraq and Iran. But the thing is, which I would like my viewers to really think of that, if you compare it with China of 1970s, where or 60s, where Chinese, Communist Party was really strict in the political system. And then when they had the Tiananmen Square issue, episode, demonstration, protests, they learned from that episode in their history. They opened their economy. They introduced political reforms. Similarly, Chinese, Iranian, government needs to learn from the experiences which they are dealing with these days. They need to give some, freedom of expression to the young men, to the young people of Tehran. They deserve more. I mean, by closing down the internet, you cannot control a political protest. You have to address the basic concerns of the common man. You have to introduce political reforms. Only then you can open up the society and look towards, delivering on the promises you made during bringing the revolution in Tehran.
Okay, you talked about yes, that was a quite comprehensive answer. You said that the systems are different, they cannot be compared. Yet you say that there's a demand within Iran for a change of the system. Asif, do you have a take on this, mate?
I think I fully agree with Riaz Bukhari
Okay,
because he
okay,
has
great.
said it. And
Mhm.
more importantly, you can't compare Iranian system with other, personal dictatorships, whether it was Saddam, whether it was Gaddafi, or it was, in Egypt.
Even if even if it is the authority of Mr. Khamenei.
Well, that is the system has bestowed that authority upon.
On him, yes.
So
Just as the system bestowed that authority on the leaders. Anyways, gentlemen, options for Pakistan. Obviously, Iran is our neighbor, and we would be directly affected by changes in Iran. So, how do we go about it?
I think
Asif?
as far as its domestic politics is concerned, we need not to interfere. But if
Correct.
Iran is interfered with by the Americans or the Israelis, I think we should express our solidarity with Iran. This is my take.
Riaz? Riaz?
The people of Iran, they are the ultimate sovereign. So if they want to bring any change through peaceful means, that's okay. That is their right. But any change through outside intervention, that will destabilize the whole region.
Okay, right. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Tonight's discussion leaves us with an uncomfortable truth. Iran's crisis is no longer Iran's alone. A weakened Iran does not mean a quieter, stable, and peaceful region. It may mean a more unpredictable one. For the regime, the moment is existential. Repression may buy time, but it cannot buy legitimacy. Repression may look like control, but it is an illusion. A state battling its own people while confronting external pressure is a weak state on the verge of collapse. For Pakistan, implications are immediate and serious. Border security pressures, refugee flows, sectarian sensitivities, and the risk of cross border militancy. Beyond Pakistan, the ripple effects widen, energy markets tighten, Gulf anxieties rise. Any direct confrontation with the US and Israel would put the region on edge, threaten shipping lanes, and raise oil prices. For Pakistan and the regional states, neutrality will not be an option. It won't shield them from the economic shocks, security spillovers, or diplomatic pressures. The risks of entanglement in a larger confrontation will be far greater. Iran's turmoil is a warning. Pakistan and the regional countries must steer the course with foresight, caution, and strategy, and not reaction. Thank you for watching Ambassador's Lounge. Please subscribe to our channel, and we will be back.